Here it is, that moment you've all been waiting for. We all have gifts to give to the world. Do you know what yours are? Are you ready to make so much money you don't know what to do with it? Are you ready to have the best relationships with the ones closest to you? Hold on tight, because you're tuned in to Momentum Media's Success Talk with your favorite host, Ryan Durden.
All right, what's going on, everybody? This is your favorite host, Ryan Durden. I'm here with Luke Burrows. Luke is an entrepreneur. He has a podcast called Grow2Gether. He's a podcast and entrepreneur. He helps people and businesses to change the way they think to unlock their true potential and grow. He does this by challenging conventional thinking and social norms and helping people to change the way that they think. So, Luke, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. And so where are you from, Luke?
So I am from, if I just say Bristol to your audience, I don't know, do you have like a mostly like US based kind of North America audience?
We're worldwide, but most of it's in US, yeah.
Yeah. So, if I just say to people, UK, most people will probably know like Bristol is one of the big cities here. I actually live up in the countryside, like nobody knows where it is. So, yeah, if I just say Bristol, most people hopefully will kind of roughly know where that is on the map, you know?
Yeah. And then Luke, how old are you?
I'm 24.
24, and you've decided to take your journey onto entrepreneurship, which is not the norm. Right?
Right. No. So, I decided that a few years ago. So it's been a journey so far for sure.
And what made you want to become an entrepreneur and stop working for somebody else?
Well, so when I left college when I was 18 and I actually dropped out. But that's a different story ultimately. You know, I dropped out because I was like not learning anything here. But yeah. So I dropped out and I was like, okay, what do I want to do? I decided that I wanted to run my own business, but I was 18. I knew nothing about business. I had no idea about the online world, podcasting, you know, like any of it, you know, like Facebook ads, like none of it, you know, like totally none of it. So at the time, you know, I just thought work for, you know, with a local business to grow. So I got a business apprenticeship at the time, you know, because I thought that's how I would learn how to, you know, get into business and whatnot. Right. Ultimately didn't turn out the way that I planned. I fell into the 9-to-5, the thing that I was trying to avoid, and was doing that for about 5 years or something. I hit some really low points of questioning who I was, my purpose and everything. At the time there was some stuff going on, you know, with my social circle and that. So it was really difficult for me. But one day just kind of like, shit, you know, I want to run my business. I'm not doing it. The only way really now I'm probably going to learn about it is to just like dive into it, you know, like I've done the way that I thought of working for a local business and growing and business apprenticeship. Hasn't turned out the way that I had hoped. So I'm just going to dive into it now. Went from failure to failure. So I tried the t-shirt business, got into network marketing, got into affiliate marketing. And then it was through the network marketing that I then found like personal growth, personal development. My upline at the time was like, you know, Luke, read these books. And I was like, I don't read, but okay, I will. I will. You know, that's kind of like where my mindset was then. But, you know, I will because you're more successful than I am. And I started diving into it, you know, the books and everything, and just kind of went from there really ultimately. So
nice. And so let's talk about mindset for a second. When you were 18 and you left college, where was your mindset at that point? Like, what was the reason why you didn't want to get a 9-to-5? Like, what was your mindset at 18?
So why I didn't want to get a 9-to-5 was because I wanted ultimately to be, if I say like in control of like my own path and future, you know, even though in business, you know, things happen. So you're not like 100% in control, but, you know, you're probably more in control than, you know, if you're working for someone else, if that makes sense. So, I wanted to pretty much be my own boss and just build something, you know, just create something of my own. And, you know, then, you know, dives into like legacy and impact and everything. So that is ultimately why I wanted to run my own business. There was like the freedom aspect of it as well. And ultimately, you know, just to build something and create something of my own. So yeah.
So let's talk about background for a second. Like your background, did your parents own businesses or they worked a 9 to 5?
Pretty much. Yeah. So I think I'm the first person in my family. Well, no. So there's like distant family who run like a construction, like a small like construction business, right? But so looking at what they do, it's more like they own a job, if that makes sense. So you know, like a builder, but they're self-employed type of thing. So you know, it's not like a proper business where, you know, employees and kind of, you know, business systems and that, like they kind of just own a job, if that makes sense. So
right.
But you know, in terms of, you know, starting up like business and that, yeah,
you're kind of explaining like the Robert Kiyosaki, like
right.
check
Yes.
the cash flow quadrant thing. Yep.
Yes.
So yeah, you're either self-employed, or you are working an hourly, you work a salary, you're self-employed, or you run a business. Right.
Yeah.
And so you saw more
ultimately,
benefit in running a business rather than being self-employed and owning a job.
Right. So I think when I first started out, obviously you kind of move through the full quarters type of thing. Yeah, quadrants, that's it. So, you know, I was in the self-employed for a bit as well, but then, you know, moved over to the right hand side. But yeah, in terms of like family and background and that, most of them are either employee or self-employed. So I was the first person to kind of like have aspirations to step out of that ultimately.
So network marketing ultimately got you into personal development.
Yeah.
Right. So like network marketing, you're not doing that anymore?
No.
So what was the reason why you joined in the first place in a network marketing company?
So I got this funny story about this. I didn't actually know it was a network marketing company.
Okay.
So at the time,
most people don't.
No. So at the time, I was building my t-shirt business. I was like, you know, really passionate about that. I was still working the 9 to 5, like hating it. I was suffering from a bit of like depression and like in that because I hated it so much. And I was like, okay, so how can I work more on my t-shirt business? So I was looking for a work from home job or something, you know, where I didn't have to travel, you know, because just like save time type of thing, where I could work from home and have that flexibility of, yes, you know, doing my job because I needed money. Then I could invest in my t-shirt venture ultimately.
Right.
And I'd seen this advert online. I was like, oh, like it said like work from home job, or like, you know what I'm saying? It looked like a work from home job. And then this one day I I went through it all. This one day, like this box of products arrived at my door, and I was like, like what do I do with this box? Literally like a box of just products.
Yeah.
And if you like marketing, like, you know, flyers or whatnot. And I was like, okay, I don't think this is like a work from home job, you know, like, you know, it was like whatever job type of thing, you know. So I was like, okay,
marketing.
Yeah. So I like went onto Facebook and like the person who I was talking to was like, okay, so what do I do now? And she was like, sell the stuff. And I was like I had no sales skills or kind of anything, you know. So I just kind of like got into it that way. But yeah, I had no idea it was network marketing or anything. And so yeah.
Looking back at it, are you glad you took that road, or do you regret anything?
No, I don't regret anything. I think I think obviously back then that's like the place I was in, you know. So I'm trying not to, you know, I don't really compare myself from now to then, because I just think it's pointless ultimately. But you know, I think it would have been good to know more about the online world, and if I had known more about like the online business world, then would I have joined the network marketing company? I'm not sure, but ultimately it's opened my eyes to, or you know, it opened my eyes to personal growth, personal development. So so in, you know, in that sense, forever grateful for it. So
yeah, you probably wouldn't be doing podcasts right now, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like, would my journey went down a whole different path,
Right. No, I relate to that because my grandfather actually got me into personal development originally, but then I kind of lost sight. And then I joined a network marketing company, and it kind of brought it all back together. And that's when things started going full circle. I started using some of the things that I learned in network marketing in my traditional business to help my traditional business grow, as well as grow my network marketing company. So I can definitely relate to that. So let's talk about what you got going on right now. So you got it's called Grow2Gether.
Grow together. Grow together.
Now let's talk about that. Is it just you by yourself?
It is, man.
Cool. And what do you usually talk about?
So when I say I'm like the core like founder and everything. We have also like Grow Together leaders and like Grow Together coaches who have their own like coaching business or mentoring business, but they come in and they do live trainings and provide educational material to the community in that based on what kind of they request and want and everything. And part of that is the Grow Together podcast, where I bring on our community members and I have conversations with them similar to this, but about, their story, their journey, their challenges and their goals and that for the future. It's kind of our way of giving like the community a voice ultimately, because, we all have value. And so, and experiences to share ultimately, and kind of, just ultimately connect people together and, like our name suggests, grow together,
Yeah. And so you Grow Together. So do you use your podcast as like a way to get clients to come in to join your business? Or what is your podcast ultimately for?
Yeah. So ultimately, I see it as a way, to bring new community members in to Grow Together. I think as a byproduct of bringing current community members on and them sharing their story, ultimately somebody's may relate to them, click the link to kind of join the community, but my intention isn't for that. My intention is to give the community members a voice and a platform where they can start to grow, so that's through the podcast and also through our community blog, where if people aren't comfortable or whatever with video and audio, it's a way how or if they communicate with the world in more written form, they can contribute to the blog that we have, and start to get their message out there that way. So that's kind of where the blog and the podcast sits. So yeah.
So I wrote a book called 7 Major Keys for Young Adults in Sales and Business. And I think that, a lot of people your age are afraid of going into business for themselves. What advice or tips or strategies would you give those people who are just as young as you, who are just too scared to jump into entrepreneurship or go into business for themselves?
I would ask the question of why, because in a way, we all have different reasons of why we're too scared, if that makes sense. Like somebody, it's because their spouse or, their partner, or, they don't want to be judged by their mom or their brother or their family or whoever it is. For other people, it might be, I don't know, a financial fear or risk, So once people identify why they're having these feelings and emotions and ultimately scared or fearful of taking that leap, and they identify, like that awareness, then I believe you can then start to tackle that, and start to look at ways to overcome that. So that's what I would suggest to people, is to, look at the core reason of, okay, so I'm feeling scared or, have this fear of jumping into it, like why, and really diving into that. Because, a lot of times we have the limiting beliefs that hold us back. And so it's about breaking those down in order to be able to move forward.
Do you think anybody can be an entrepreneur?
Good question. So no. However, I believe that people can build a side hustle or do something that they love and make money around it ultimately, you know,
Mm-hmm.
especially with like the internet and that. So I think there's a big difference between like an entrepreneur and like a side hustle or a business and a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I'm sharing with our community members at Grow2Gether, you know, helping them to find what they love to do and helping them to then develop ideas around it to do that, you know. So it might be somebody is really passionate about, I don't know, sport, you know, and they have ideas around, I don't know, let's start a sports podcast or a sports blog, but that something's holding them back. So it's working through that. And once we work through that and they jump out and do it, they then, you know, do the sports podcast or the sports blog. They also realize that they're super passionate or they're super enjoy podcasting as well, right? So then they, you know, do more of that. So I think in terms of building a business where, you know, you're 6 figures, 7 figures or whatever it is, and then, you know, call yourself an entrepreneur like that, I think not everyone is maybe cut out for that or whatever it is, or maybe not everyone wants to do that, you know, but I believe that everyone can do something that they love around their passions and ultimately build something on the side. You know, if they love their job, like why not build something on the side, you know, also. Yeah. So that's ultimately what I'm about. So
very cool. And so let's say, you know, let's say somebody who has tried different businesses and failed every single time, and now they just say they just want to give up, they're just going to go get a 9-to-5. What would you tell that person?
Good question. Why they wanted to build, like, ask the question of why they wanted to step out and build their business in the first place, you know, because I think that if you are really committed to, or like, I don't like using DNA because I'm like a very growth minded person, you know, so I think things can be developed, but, you know, like if it's a part of you to like build a business, then surely, you know, you're just going to keep trying and learning and growing to make that happen. And so then if you're just going to give up, maybe, like you say, you weren't born to be an entrepreneur, or that like this isn't for you, but that side hustle option might be, you know. So I think it's then going back to the reason or the why of why you wanted to build a business in the first place, because I think, again, if that's strong enough, then you'll ultimately, you know, that can help you to push forward.
In your opinion, what would you say is the time to stop your 9-to-5 and just pursue your 5 to 9 consistently?
Yeah. Good question. I think it's a bit different for everyone. I think people need to look at their own circumstances. I think if you're outgrowing your 9-to-5, I think that would be a good indication, you know, that, you know, so outgrowing in a personal sense, maybe even like a business sense or a side hustle sense, you know, like if you're making more money with your side hustle than you are your main job, then could that be an indication as well that actually focus more here, you know? But also as, you know, you as a person, you know, if you're going into work and they're all mostly negative and, you know, don't have the more like growth mindset that you have or you've developed, you know, and that environment is kind of holding you back as well a bit, then I think that could be an indication, you know?
Yeah, for sure. The reason why I asked the question is because I saw this ridiculous post on Facebook the other day, and it says, don't quit your 9-to-5 until you have 3 times the amount of money that you make with your 9-to-5, and you have 3 months of income saved up and all this other nonsense that I just was like, no, like once you start to gain momentum and you start to, you know, make maybe not as much money as your 9-to-5, but you're just about there, then that's when you need to start putting, you know, your foot down, your pedal to the metal and start going with your passion. Unless you love your job, you know, I mean, there's people that love their jobs, and there's nothing wrong with just taking your side hustle and making it big and staying at your job. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And like you said, it depends on the person. So I think that was a great answer. So where can everybody find you? I know you're in the UK. So do you do a lot of, do you do any like coaching with entrepreneurs, or are you mostly just a group guy where you just handle things in a group?
Yeah, so we have our like higher tier mentoring programs that Grow Together. So these are our mentoring programs, our Mastermind programs. So that's where mostly, again, it's very much in that group community setting where um, come together every quarter to ultimately mastermind, and then most of the rest of Grow Together is online via our e-learning platforms and everything. But like I said before, before we recorded the podcast, we're starting to do more events and like one-day workshops and that with people, with people and that as well. So
I want people to follow you, and I want people to have a good understanding of why they're following you. So what could somebody expect when they join your mastermind?
For sure. So what can they expect? Fun, but also focus on helping that individual to accomplish their goals. And obviously, the way this podcast has gone, it's been really focusing on passion, and that's something that we are really focused in on. And pretty much everything that we spoke about, like taking that idea or taking that passion or taking that interest and turning it into a business or turning it into a side hustle. So ultimately, you live your passion. I always say that.
Let's define passion. Like, so I'm really passionate about really passionate about football. Should I make football American football? Should I make should I make that
I was just wondering
focus
then.
of my life?
So yeah, that's a great question, because actually I'm a huge soccer fan, right? Mm-hmm. So there we go. And so I think as human beings, we have multiple interests and multiple passions, right? I think it's starting with the one or the interest or whatever it is that's like the most strongest to you, and maybe the one that also like people can start with in a way right now as well, so in terms of, I'll just use me as an example. In terms of my passions, like I have goals and kind of aspirations to also do things around soccer, right? For your football here, but it's because that's another passion that I have. But I'm focusing right now on my passion of helping other people. So I think sometimes like the message gets around of like, do you like pursue your passion, and people are like, well, I don't have a passion, and they feel like really down or bad that they can't identify their passion, right? And so what we try and do is like we all have interests, like we all have things that we're interested in. And so starting with that, so like brain dumping or just getting out onto paper and like writing out all the things you're interested in, and then ultimately just like picking one to start with and just trying it. Like I gave the example before, if somebody was interested in sports, and so then they go, okay, I want to start a sports podcast, but then through taking action and trying that, they then realize, oh, I love podcasting as well, because to have conversations with amazing people, meet new people. And so what I found in like, even in my own journey, through that, you then ignite multiple passions that maybe you didn't even know you had, because you're trying new things.
Right.
So that's ultimately what I help people to do within
finding
the community. Yeah.
That's a start. Like that's where you got to start, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Definitely. Cool, man. So on your Facebook, where can people find you on Facebook?
So I'm across all social platforms under the username Real Luke Burrows. So whatever platform people are on, Real Luke Burrows, and feel free to connect with me, reach out. Love to connect with new people.
Sweet. And we'll put the links for everybody so they can just click and start following you. So who are your mentors? It could be close mentors right now to you, or like we say, mentors that we don't know. Who would be your number one mentor for you in your life right now?
Gary V.
Gary V, the man. And I see you have the Real Luke Burrows. Do you listen to Real Bradley at all?
I don't. No, I don't. I'm gonna check him out now.
Yeah, you gotta check him out. He's down to earth, no sugarcoating stuff, just like Gary Vee does. He's actually out of Las Vegas, so he's kind of like a Vegas guy. So I definitely encourage you to go check him out. I think you'll really like him. So, and then obviously subscribe to this podcast. I'll send you the link. But cool, man. So what do you want to leave? Just if you can leave one message to the world right now, what would your message be?
My message would be that, whatever the education system or your teachers or your parents or whoever tells you that, you've got to go down the traditional route, that you can do something that you love and ultimately live your best life. That's a bit cliche, but do something that you love, and pretty much build your ultimately, your life around that. Like, you don't have to listen to what your parents tell you in terms of jobs and careers, because we're in the 21st century now, 2020. The technology that we have that gives you the opportunity to get out there a bit more and
live differently than them, right?
There we go. Live differently. That's it.
We're not going to school, getting good jobs, retiring, getting retirement checks, and getting a Social Security check anymore. You gotta grind for ours now. So
there we go.
Cool, Luke. Well, it was amazing having you on, and I definitely want to stay connected. Hopefully, we can do some business in the future together. But I wish you all the luck. And again, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast today, man.
Pleasure's all mine, man. Pleasure's all mine.
Cool. Take care.